Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special ambush stream on a Wednesday. A very special day for me because purportedly I am no longer able to work for the day because our internet service provider has decided to turn off the internet to the building in which our office is housed. And in the middle of a work day, in the middle of a work week, and it'll apparently be off for like 12 hours. So whatever work I was not able to finish now, I will have to finish sometime later tonight because that's how the world works. And as a consequence of that, I have a sort of half day by force majeure to contend with, if that's a thing to contend with. So in addition to having some planned family time this evening, I thought I'd do a little stream, little ambush stream, little thing off the usual beaten path, since it's a weird day and a weird week. Tomorrow will be a separate schedule as well because the State of the Union address is taking place when I'd usually do TED Excellence. So I'll probably be doing TED Excellence about 2 hours earlier than usual tomorrow. So look out for that. Anyway, that's all housekeeping stuff. Who's joining me on this ambush stream on this Wednesday morning? Keeverdam, hello. Sextus Megorian, Guardian of Old Phyrexia, hello. Attorney Eris, hello. Who else is here? Angela Arriaga, hello. Sapien 187, hello. Kiro Soldier, hello. Noah Asensio, hello. Ercole Di Stefano, hello. Matt Barnes, hello. Who else is here? Anybody else? John Trioxin, hello and good morning. And I think that's everybody I see. If I missed anybody, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, good morning to you. Let's see, a couple of things first. At the top of the chat box, helpfully provided by Keeverdam, the links to the GoFundMes for our friends Moonshock, Natalie, Angela Arriaga, James Colley, and Rhonda. You guys take a look at those when you have the opportunity. If you can donate to those, please do so. And if you're unable to, that's fine. But if you can, share those out on social media. That'd be very much appreciated as well. All right, so what do we have for us today? Well, you may recall, those of you familiar with long-term Scribe stream lore and channel lore in general, I have a certain antipathy for Stanford University. Well, we're not talking about Stanford today. Oh, wait, did I invoke Stanford? I didn't invoke Stanford. No, not Stanford. Not Stanford. Instead, today, we're going to be taking a look at UC Berkley. Yes, UC Berkley. Recently, within the last week, UC Berkley has released a series of small module videos that are purportedly, from what I can tell from the titles, going to teach us how to create an inclusive environment amongst our campus and staff and so on, should we be the types to be running a college. Now, I don't run a college, as far as I know, unless you want to call all the educational benefits I provide on my channel as a sort of college. But I'm not accredited. Anyway, so there's a series of short videos, each one I don't think any longer than about 5 or 6 minutes, and I've linked them all together and cut out some musical cues and things. And so we're going to watch them in sequence, in order as they are meant to be presented in Module 1A, 1B, 2, 3, and 4. And hopefully from this, we will learn, if nothing else, what UC Berkeley is doing on their campus to create a more inclusive, diverse, equitable, and belonging campus. That's the plan. Anyway, a couple more hellos before I move on. John Miller, hello. Who else is here? Anybody else? I don't see anyone else that I hadn't already said hello to. So, with all that being said, I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will proceed. The whole thing lasts just over 30 minutes. So let's go. Yeah. I forgot to cut out this particular musical cue, apparently.
We've all encountered situations at work that make us feel unwelcomed.
Yeah, like when the door's locked and I need to get to my desk. I mean, that's happened before. I had a guy one time come up behind me because he thought we were like friends or something, or maybe he was high. I'm still not sure to this day. But anyway, I was working at my desk very diligently and very focused on my screen, and he came up behind me in some kind of weird, playful manner to start rubbing my shoulders. And I cringed so hard, I broke the sound barrier and kind of pushed him back because I was like, I didn't see it coming. I was so startled. I was like, ah! And he's like, ah! And I'm like, what are you doing? Because it was just completely out of the blue. Anyway, I felt a little unwelcomed after that because apparently he took offense to that from me not wanting to be touched by a effective stranger in the workplace. Anyway, it was a weird story. It was a weird time.
Excluded or dismissed.
Uh-huh.
At times, these situations arise from words or actions concerning our identity that come across as hostile or offensive.
Are we talking about microaggressions? Oh, please tell me we're talking about microaggressions.
These kinds of behaviors, actions, statements,
Uh-huh.
and the physical work environment itself can
Yes.
target some or many aspects of our identity.
And if you're thin-skinned enough to take offense at anything that comes your way that you decide to interpret as offensive, then yeah, you're going to have a bad time.
Such as our age, disability, race, gender, sexual orientation, among others.
Among others. Uh-huh.
As defined by Daryl Wing Su, microaggressions are commonplace verbal, behavioral, and environmental slights or insults that are
Yeah.
hostile, derogatory, or negative.
Yeah, and almost entirely self-defined. Tell us about the part where they can be things that are without intent most of the time and fully self-interpretive.
And target a person or marginalized group.
Or someone can turn themselves into a target and take offense at anything they choose to and hold someone to account for an action they took that had no intent behind it.
People of color, women, and people with disabilities are some examples of groups that are marginalized.
Some examples of, you mean demographics? Oh, okay. So anyone who's outside of that couldn't be a victim of a microaggression?
But we know that employees from various backgrounds and identities can experience microaggressions.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Microaggressions, as we know, can
Uh-huh.
be intentional or unintentional.
Oh, as we know. Oh, okay. So it's already understood that someone could say something and someone could interpret it into a way that was not meant at all and then decide to take offense to it. I'll be curious to see if they put any responsibility on the listener of such an exchange to really assess whether or not it's worth making an issue of.
Irrespective of the intention or how we interpret them, microaggressions can lead to feelings of isolation or exclusion.
That is a irrespective of intention. Okay, yeah, again, personal problem.
Significantly affecting our sense of belonging.
Oh, wow.
Let me share an example.
I love examples.
Picture yourself dedicating days to prepare for a crucial work presentation.
Okay, I'm picturing myself dedicating days for a crucial work presentation.
On the presentation day, you arrive at work feeling confident and professional.
Oh, boy, that's a rare day.
The moment is yours to shine.
I put a little powder on to prevent that.
Unexpectedly, a
Uh-huh.
coworker interrupts,
Uh-huh.
diverting the conversation to comment on your hair as
What hair? No, wait, I have hair. Uh-huh.
they reach out their hand to feel the texture.
Yes. It has often been the case in a professional environment where someone will interrupt a business meeting presentation to reach out and touch my hair. I'm sure that happens all the time. Doesn't it happen to you? I'd be curious to know. Those of you in the chat, and if you're listening in the future, by all means, please comment below. How often has it been your experience that in the middle of a professional presentation, someone is like, "Ooh, I like your hair," and then starts rubbing your head? Is that a thing that happens very often? Okay.
I like your hair. Can I touch it? Is it real?
No, and yes.
You may be wondering how a seemingly harmless question about hair, a question wrapped in a compliment, can communicate a hostile, derogatory, or negative slight.
Well, I'm actually more curious as to whether that's an example from real life or something that people have made up and turned into something that is supposedly common but doesn't actually happen, if at all. And besides which, that's not a microaggression in the first place. I mean, it is a stupid question and an inappropriate one given the circumstances, but someone likes your hair. Okay, here's the thing. Even if, I assume for a second, that actually happened, all right, the person is stating their intent and their feelings on the matter in the question. I like your hair. What is aggressive about that? And if they're asking your permission to touch it, if they're looking for consent, what's aggressive about that? What is either offensive or aggressive? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I encourage you to think carefully about the possible messages your coworker's comment could be sending you or others.
Oh, I like your hair. Thank you, Keeverdam. I hate your hair. Is that better? Exactly. It's like, holy cats. It looks like you're wearing a rat's nest on your head. Was that a micro suggestion? Just anyway.
And consider the impact it would have.
Hmm.
How is your hairstyle relevant to your presentation or job performance?
Well, I mean, if you come in with a giant orange, like Dayglow orange mohawk, it might distract. I don't know. And and this is the best example you can come up with of a microaggression in a circumstance where no thinking person would say such a thing or try to do such a thing. But when they do, it's something that is at least on the surface complimentary. That is your first and primary example of a microaggression. Okay?
Why does your colleague believe it's acceptable to touch your hair or inquire about touching it?
I don't know. I don't know. Can you come up with something a little less unbelievable?
Do they pose these questions to all colleagues, or are they specifically targeting you or others with similar hairstyles?
Well, in this instance, they are quote unquote targeting the individual because they like her hair. It is personal. It is a compliment to that individual. And what if they do like hairstyles similar to the one worn by their coworker? What is that supposed to mean? Is that also a microaggression, or does someone just have an appreciation for that particular aesthetic? Boy, of all the examples you could have picked, this is a pretty lousy one. Thank you, Derek LaRue, as always. Very much appreciated for your generosity and support. Hope you're having a good Wednesday morning. Also, a couple hellos I see in the chat here. Renovatio, good morning. Faithless, good morning. Some Nemnial Nation, good morning. And I hope I didn't miss anybody else. Did I already say hello, Resolute Germ? Well, hello, Resolute Germ, if I didn't already. Yeah, the hair up there.
As you reflect, consider why your coworkers' actions might cause discomfort for you or others.
Or why they might represent a compliment. Do I have to reflect on the most negative interpretation?
Picture a scenario where such behavior is widespread. In such a situation, you could feel emotionally drained.
I could, or I could shrug it off, or just take it in the spirit in which it was expressed as a compliment. I mean, yeah. Thank you, Matt Barnes. It is unacceptable if secretly poke the afro on the guy in front of me with my pencil. Yes. Yes, Matt Barnes. I understand that perhaps you're still in third grade, but yeah, that would be unacceptable. That would be unacceptable. It's not. Do not poke. No pokey, no touchy. Not good. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's aggressive. It's evil. You could hurt their feelings.
Socially isolated and like you don't belong, affecting both your work performance and your sense of belonging in the workplace.
Yeah, boy, I like your hair today. Boy, now you've made me feel like I don't belong. Thanks a lot. You know what a bright spot in my day would be if someone in my workplace said, hey, I really like your hair today. But then again, I don't usually receive compliments on my appearance like that, so I don't know.
So, how can we initiate efforts to tackle microaggressions in the workplace,
I don't know. A linebacker, maybe?
aiming to foster a diverse, fair, and inclusive organizational culture where employees genuinely feel a sense of belonging?
Wait, okay. I know I keep harping on this, but really, that your primary example of a harmful microaggression in the workplace is, however inconceivable the scenario you presented is I like your hair. Do you mind if I touch it? Okay, the latter part of that statement is, I don't think anything anybody in any reasonable sense would ever say or do in the workplace, unless they're a moron. But setting that aside, the sentiment around this is one of positivity. It's one of compliment. It's one of bringing somebody in, not keeping somebody excluded. So, this is an education at UC Berkley.
The first step in addressing microaggressions is recognizing when a microaggression occurs.
Okay, and was that a microaggression?
The second is to acknowledge what message the microaggression might be sending.
I like your hair.
Microaggressions are often subtle manifestations of bias or unconscious bias
I like your hair.
that manifest in our language, behavior, and workplace environments. Employees who encounter microaggressions often find themselves compelled to request respectful treatment in the workplace.
Encounter microaggressions, not manifest them. Okay.
This necessity arises because those responsible for microaggressions are frequently unaware of the hurtful impact of their behavior.
Because it's almost entirely subjective to the listener to turn it into something it was never meant to be. Okay. Again, I wonder who wrote the Book of Love. But beyond that, I wonder if we're even going to address the responsibility of the listener to be reasonable or to practice some kind of reasonability in their interpretations of things.
Or indifferent. At some point in time, you may have heard one of these statements in the workplace. You are so articulate.
I actually have heard that before. It's true. I have been told that.
You sounded white over the phone.
Okay, well, admittedly, I haven't heard that one. And I guess when you predicate the whole thing by saying you may have heard these in the workplace, well, the odds are what? 1 in 10 zillion? But okay, yeah, someone may have heard this.
Wow, you are a credit to your race.
Okay, the first one I have heard before. I have actually been complimented on being so articulate. I have actually had that happen before. I remember this because again, this is how often I receive any kind of compliments of any real note outside of the normal kind of thing, I guess. I don't even know what that would be. But anyway, something out of the ordinary. Yes, I was told I was articulate because we had a meeting and I forget what the subject was, but it was about some kind of complicated communication with a vendor. And I was asked to describe the dynamics I had in the communication with the vendor versus something that had happened to a coworker of mine. And so I told the story of how, we contacted this vendor and we didn't already have a contract with them, but it was a potential one. And so I approached this vendor, not in a way that they owed me something, but because there was, potentially could have a business relationship, different things. Anyway, at the end of it, we're done with the meeting and everything else. And a coworker of mine came up afterward and said, "Wow, you're so articulate." And I was like, "Oh, well, thank you." I mean, I said, as you may have heard me say something similar on the channel before, I have to justify my English major somehow. That's usually my answer to something like that. So I have heard that before, but it wasn't said in a derogatory nature. But then, you sounded white over the phone. You are a credit to your race. Again, for those of you in the chat, or in the comments below, have you ever in your life seriously heard somebody say that to you or to another person in the workplace? These are your examples. I like your hair. And then one thing that you might have heard, depending on the context, and then two things that I doubt have ever happened in the modern day. Come on.
The implicit message being conveyed here is that people of color are either perceived as less intelligent compared to their white counterparts, or conversely, they are considered exceptionally intelligent within the context of their race.
Whoa. Wait a second. You're so articulate is automatically a dig on people of color. Okay, who's being the racist now?
A similar example is when someone says to a woman, "Wow, how did you as a woman become so proficient in math?"
What the? You know what caused all this, obviously? It was the talking Barbie doll from like 1994 or something, where it 3 or 4 different phrases came out of the Barbie doll when you pushed the button, and one of them was like, "Wow, math is hard." There was such a controversy over a Barbie doll saying math is hard. And this is back, I believe it was the 90s. Someone can correct me on this. I believe it was like the mid 90s or something. Because, years and years and years ago, we were much more sexist and insensitive than we are now, except for when stuff like that happened. How did you as a woman become so proficient in math? Really? Who said this? When did they say this? Are you reaching back to the 1950s or something?
This statement conveys shock or disbelief around.
You're right. That would be a shockingly, disbelievingly weird thing to say.
Around her presumed competencies.
Yeah, it's true. Is this an example from real life? You gotta be kidding me. Really? Oh, man. Berkeley, you're becoming my second worst next to Stanford. Thank you, C. Thomas. Asking the woke to be responsible is akin to turning lead to gold. Quote, microaggressions, unquote, is woke speech for I'm immature and socially inept, unquote. Yeah. Well, I'm looking to become a victim. I'm walking on mental eggshells within my own sensitivities, waiting for somebody to give me a reason to complain. And here's the thing. Even if someone comes up to you and says something that is intentionally meant to be insulting or derogatory or to knock you down or something, you know whose responsibility it is to deal with that? Yours. To grow up, to shrug it off. Short of it being something that's creating a hostile work environment, that's like in violation of law, or you have to deal with this person every day, which there are things you can worry about in that case. I'm not going to say it's somebody like coming up and like physically or sexually otherwise harassing you in the workplace shouldn't be addressed. But if somebody's just making a snide comment, grow up. It'll increase and strengthen your character. Thank you, Kieverdam. According to Wikipedia, that Barbie was released in 1992. Okay, well, even older than I thought. Thank you, Kieverdam, for the pop-up video reference there. Yes, 1992, there was a Barbie that was programmed to say, math is hard. And there was an uproar. There was an uproar over the implication that both A, women had a problem with math just as being a woman, and B, that this was a message being sent to young girls that they should avoid math, or math is something to be derided or whatever. So even in the early 90s, this was unacceptable on a wide societal level, before the internet, before social media. Anyway, tell us more about these incomprehensible things that somebody said back in 1947.
It is problematic because it implies surprise or disbelief that a woman can excel in a field traditionally associated with men.
You don't say. Thanks, Berkeley.
Reinforcing gender stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
These statements communicate the belief that it is unusual for a person to fit outside our stereotypical assumptions of them. This may happen in committees when members comment on fit or make assumptions about a person's character, temperament, or desire to join your unit based on their identity.
I guess it could. if those things actually happened in such frequency and commonality these days that it were a problem. Sure.
Managing microaggressions around identity in the workplace can be a challenging task.
Yes, there's a lot of emotional labor that goes into it when you're watching out for reasons to be offended and feel bad about yourself.
You might be thinking, why don't we simply steer clear of these topics entirely?
These topics. Well, since the topics are self-generated by the listener to be turned into issues, you can't steer clear from it because you're always carrying around that chip on your shoulder.
For instance, let's avoid discussions about race and try to make things simpler for everyone.
Well, on that score, I will agree with you. Race is irrelevant. So, yeah, let's do that. Let's just do that. Let's just make race an irrelevancy in considerations of people's character and ability and everything else. You're right. Just throw it out the window. You're right. That's a good point.
When race is not acknowledged in the workplace, it gives rise to additional issues.
Oh, so I have to make racial comments in the workplace. Is that what I'm doing? It is a good thing. It is something to be encouraged to make comments about race in the workplace. So if I said, boy, you sounded black on the phone, that would be an appropriate thing to say? Or you are a credit to your race is now not a microaggression? What is a safe and appropriate racial comment to make in the workplace? One that's not going to be cited against me as a microaggression is actually a good thing.
The statement, I don't see color, for
yes,
example, denies the significance of the racial and ethnic experiences and history of people of color.
You're right. You're right. It ignores race as an evaluative factor in looking at someone. You're right. But it doesn't ignore anybody's experiences because I do not associate experience and quality of life with melanin count because there's a whole set of ideologies that do that. And do you know what those are called? Yeah, racist ideologies. I don't know if you're aware. I don't know if you're aware, but simply the color or pigment of someone's skin does not define their lived experience or ethnic history. Why don't you talk to the individual aside from their color? But again, I ask, and I mean it, what and in what way should I address race in the workplace that is acceptable? If I'm not meant to be colorblind, then how can I be color in mind correctly?
People of color are also still experiencing racism and discrimination in the workplace.
Yes, because you're telling us that we need to assess people on the basis of their skin color in the workplace and to assume to know something about them before we've even spoken to them as individuals. So yes.
Even if colleagues claim that they do not acknowledge, see, or consider race.
Okay, so if I say I don't consider race, I'm doing it wrong. But I need to consider race, except that would, just by the nature of the beast, be the slippery slope towards having some sort of racist mechanism taking place in the workplace, which would also be wrong. So if I can't see race and that's wrong, but if I do see race and that's wrong, then what is the correct position to take? Are you going to tell us, Berkley? Are you? Thank you, John Miller. This lady is more full of manure than a fertilizer plant. Well, she's definitely got a whole bunch of cognitive dissonance going on. So if there is a correct way of behaving in the workplace, I would love to hear an example.
In fact, sociologist Eduardo Bonilla Silva argues that colorblindness is used by majority groups in order to avoid discussing, addressing, or dismantling racism and discrimination altogether.
Oh, okay. So we should assess people on the basis of their race. I mean, I don't know how else to take that message there. If color blindness, the principle of color blindness is inherently wrong, then we need to see people on the basis of their skin color. and assume to know something about them on the basis of their skin color. And what would that be called? I'm going to read the statement that we just had quoted one more time. Color blindness is used by majority groups to avoid discussing, addressing, or dismantling racism and discrimination. What does a world where racism doesn't exist look like? I mean, policy-wise, procedure-wise, interaction-wise. If racism is not an issue, then what is not happening? People are not assessing each other on the basis of race, correct? Race becomes irrelevant, correct? Color blindness would be the standard, correct? So how do you propose to dismantle racism without the principle of color blindness? I don't know. I don't know that our quoted speaker here knows. I don't know that our speaker here knows, because we keep going around in circles on this.
In turn, the notion of colorblindness actually prevents people of color from being treated equitably.
Oh, okay. So I need to evaluate them on the basis of their race in some way to achieve equality. Okay. What dollar value shall I put on someone's skin color, do you think?
We need to embrace diversity and differences in the workplace without bias or judgment.
You just told us that we need to assess someone on the basis of their skin color. That requires bias and judgment.
Often workplaces are sites of social interaction that reflect racial and cultural stereotypes that are rooted in unconscious bias.
Or conscious bias if you're telling people that color blindness is an inherent sin.
Well, most people don't intentionally stereotype or discriminate against groups of people.
Most people don't, but you're encouraging everyone to do so.
Their brains make judgments based on patterns, experiences, and cultural stereotypes, which in turn can affect their behavior toward others and have lasting consequences in the workplace.
Oh, okay. Are people of color capable of expressing microaggressions? I mean, you've only talked about one general demographic as being victims in this whole apparatus. Is it possible for people of color to do the same to not people of color or people of different colors?
Unlearning unconscious bias is ongoing and critical DEIB work.
Oh, DEIB. Okay, yeah, I'd seen that somewhere. Yeah, they did decide to add belonging in here. All right, well, that's the end of Module 1. 1A, I should say. Now we're on to Module 1B. I don't know what the subject of Module 1B. All I know is that there's 5 different modules. 1A, 1B, 2, 3, 4. So here we go.
You may be wondering what to do when you're on the receiving, giving, or witnessing end of a microaggression in the workplace.
You're right. You're right. What should I do on giving, receiving, witnessing, catching and pitching and so on?
You might experience significant embarrassment or offense due to someone else's actions or behavior.
Yeah, and it could be entirely self-generated. And then what?
This could leave you questioning, did I interpret that correctly?
That would be a wise thing to think and consider before reacting, yes.
Did they say what I think they said?
I don't know. Do you need a hearing aid? Oh, wait, is that ableist?
Will saying something make it worse?
Probably. In the workplace, if you actually think you're being targeted, discriminated against, harassed, or otherwise, the wisest and most professional action to take is to speak to HR, have an intermediary, because if you're not sure, and if it's not something that you're going to try to address in a, I don't know, screaming match, and certainly hopefully nothing physical in the workplace, it is best to go through an intermediary and have things assessed professionally otherwise. But okay, let's say that's the case, then what?
At Berkeley, we don't expect you to do what inequitable workplaces have conditioned their employees to do.
Oh, and what's that?
That is, stay quiet or awkwardly shrug it off.
Well, it all depends on the circumstances. And depending on the circumstances, shrugging it off might be the adult thing to do.
No, we want to emphasize that it's not your responsibility to ease the discomfort of the situation.
Oh, okay. So if I am the target of if I'm actually the target of somebody trying to intimidate me or make fun of me or something else, it's not my responsibility to stand up for myself? Oh, okay. So what's the plan?
Nor should you assume that their intentions were benign.
Why not? I mean, can't I at least have that as a possibility?
So first, we encourage you to address the situation.
Okay, how do I address the situation? Granted that it is a situation, because I've decided it's a situation because it couldn't possibly be something that's benign. It's obviously something that's meant to shoot to wound, so to speak.
For example, what did you mean by that?
Okay. Innocent enough.
Or, I'm having trouble connecting your comment to our work.
Uh-huh.
Speaking up in spaces when we feel uncomfortable is important because even if it may not feel like it in the moment, addressing the incident models for colleagues a constructive and appropriate way to engage in uncomfortable situations and conversations.
Oh, so a kind of passive aggressiveness, right? What did you mean by that? Anyway, thank you, C. Thomas. This call them out mantra only creates hostility. Yes, you're becoming combative or confrontational, especially if we've already decided they can't possibly have said something that's benign. So if you already have that in your quiver, or I should say not in your quiver, they can't possibly have said something that's benign. Anything after that means that you're approaching them in a confrontational and hostile manner, accusatory and otherwise. That's not going to improve the situation. But I guess we'll see what other advice we get here. Thank you, Scanner Daffley, so much. We are getting a lecture about workplaces from someone who has never had a real job, written by people who have never had a real job. Why does anyone listen to these weirdos? This is official UC Berkeley publication. This is on their YouTube page. This was all posted within the last week. I don't know. I'm more curious to know, what is UC Berkeley telling its own staff, telling its own student body, or expressing to the rest of the world? What wisdom does UC Berkeley have for us? That's why I'm looking at this. I want to know what one of the premier educational institutions in our country is telling us to do when it comes to workplace, I guess, microaggressions. The other modules have to do with other subjects, I presume. Hopefully we're not on microaggressions all day. That would be a microaggression education. But all right, so what did you mean by that? How is this connected to our work?
Speaking up is a form of power, and it takes courage to disrupt microaggressions when they happen.
You could also give back what you got getting, you know? You could try to, I feel like there's part of me that has sort of like a schoolyard mentality, right? Somebody says something snarky to you, you say something snarky back. But at the same time, though, they're talking about the workplace. And I have ingrained in me relatively firmly a different mindset when I'm in a professional environment. You know, unless I know the person, and if I know the person, if they're saying something snarky to me, it's probably just a joke. And believe it or not, I can usually take a joke. But in a professional environment, somebody says something snarky to me, I'll probably give them a weird look and just go back to doing my work and ignore them. Because the silent treatment sometimes says more than any sort of confrontation can. And if it persists, if it becomes something that bothers me, if somebody starts interfering with my work, well, then I act like a professional and an adult in a work environment, and I go take it, I write up a memo, and I take it off to HR. And it sounds all bureaucratic, it sounds all office space, but that's what you do when you're a professional in the workplace. You take the high road. You act like a professional. If somebody's got a personal beef with you, you take it outside and you leave it outside at best. But I don't know what she's talking about. She hasn't given us a new example yet, so let's go.
Then describe the behavior that was harmful.
Uh-huh.
For example, I was about to deliver my presentation during the meeting, and you interrupted me by drawing attention to my hair.
Yeah.
What you did made me feel uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
Next, explain the impact.
Okay, you know what? I mean, taking that just as the structure of an interaction, yes, if you did that after the meeting and in private, didn't try to call somebody out in the middle of the meeting or try to make an example of them or anything else, if you're expressing this issue to them in private and politely and calmly, that is also conceivably acceptable. You know, circumstances may vary, etc. But yeah, if you're gonna have an issue with somebody, you do it off to the side and away from everybody else, and just try to settle it professionally. And if you can't settle it professionally at that point, then maybe escalate to HR or something. Except, you know, I like your hair. Yeah, not exactly the time or the place for saying that, but made you uncomfortable. Really, I like your hair anyway.
While you may not have intended to cause any harm,
there was no harm done. No harm was caused by I like your hair.
The impact of your behavior made me feel singled out and undermined.
Okay, singled out, sure. Undermined? Interrupting an official presentation? Yeah, but you know, there's probably about 7 other people in the room that would have given that person a dirty look anyway because it's rude. It's just, even if it wasn't about your hair, it was like, wow, I like your shoes. It's just patently common sense rude. I know I'm harping on this. I keep doing it, but if this is your prime example, it is the most ridiculous example to bring up or to conjure into existence. It's so stupid.
Because of my race.
Whoa. Because of my race. So wait, only what does race have to do with I like your hair? Unless, I mean, you wouldn't want to be leaning onto some kind of like racial stereotype or something, right?
It was a frustrating and isolating experience.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You don't have to bring out the thesaurus just to explain yourself to somebody.
Describe what you would like to see happen next.
Stop asking about my hair.
I encourage you to educate yourself further on why what you said was harmful.
Could you sound more like a smug jerk? Educate yourself on why you said was harmful. Why don't you just say, look, I appreciate you like my hair, but just don't interrupt official presentations. How's about that? Educate yourself. Go educate yourself. It's not my responsibility to take the emotional labor of educating you. Thank you, Matt Barnes. Now I must get a job with this lady. I will go on and on about her hair just to get fired so I can stay away from her for good. Oh, man. If only she had hinged this entire presentation on a better example, a less ridiculous example, a less not mean-spirited example. Anyway.
And ways to prevent an incident like this from happening in the future. Sometimes you will need to address the microaggression in the moment. Other times, you might consider following up to have a conversation with a colleague so that a more safe and authentic dialogue can occur.
More safe and authentic. Okay. You want to give us an example of this kind of interaction?
Now, let's say if you had witnessed this act of microaggression.
I would jump in front of the recipient and try to absorb the sound waves like a Secret Service agent taking a bullet for the president. That would be the appropriate action, right? As a bystander.
Happening to a colleague. You can use similar steps to speak up and disrupt the microaggression.
Ooh, how do I say muad'Dib and like blast the person through the wall?
It might also be important to talk with the colleague that experienced the microaggression first.
Oh, are you okay? Are you injured? Are your feelings intact? Oh my God, I saw that. I couldn't believe what he said. He said he liked your hair. Oh God.
Check in on their well-being and to understand how they may want to engage or collaborate in addressing the microaggression.
Yeah, let's team up for great justice.
If the microaggressive behavior does not improve, please talk to your boss or HR partner.
Oh,
Raising the issue to your boss or HR can address the behaviors.
wait, isn't that like the standard procedure of most businesses that you told us earlier was the wrong thing to do, and you're encouraging people not to do that?
And serve to prevent future incidents involving you or others in the workplace.
Oh,
Remember,
okay. Yeah.
racial and other forms of discrimination are illegal.
You're pushing DEI philosophy, and you're underscoring the illegality of racial and gender discrimination. I don't know if you know how DEI works.
There are systems in place to protect employees' rights.
Are there? Well, you could have fooled me. I've been doing 7 years of pointing out how the EEOC and employees' rights and civil rights have been violated or not enforced over and over and over and over and over again. So, news to me, I tell you what.
We all play an important role in reducing microaggressions in the workplace
Sure
by
we do.
engaging in self-introspection, participating in equity-focused professional learning, being courageous, and committing to taking action against discriminatory behaviors.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know that I classify anything that I do as being courageous, but I, call out discriminatory behaviors when I see them, like, UC Berkeley telling us all that people who aren't white need special consideration and need to have their race pointed out to other people as a good thing in the workplace and stuff. But, okay.
Self-reflection begins by increasing our awareness of our social identity in the workplace.
Oh, okay. How do I assess my social identity in the workplace?
And challenging our own biases and assumptions.
Oh, okay. I assume that everyone in the room is a professional unless or until they prove otherwise, and I'll treat them with respect and not assume to know something about them other than, well, if they're in the room, they must have earned their spot. At least extend the benefit of the doubt. Oh, of course. Oh, wait. We can't do that. We can't extend the benefit of the doubt to anything anybody might say. We're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to take on a defensive stance on anything that's said that we decide to take offense to. Because as we know, offense is taken, never given. But okay.
Finally, combating microaggressions and practicing inclusive and equitable behaviors requires courage.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes, your courage. You're a courageous warrior.
And action. This includes taking accountability of your own behavior when committing a microaggression against.
Whoa. What about the responsibility of the listener to assess whether or not whatever's been said is actually something that was meant or even constitutes a problem? Come on.
A colleague by acknowledging and understanding the harm caused.
No, what if I won't capitulate to somebody's complaint in the absence of any intent on my part? Why would I want to give in to their oversensitivity or their delusions and make myself a villain by confessing to something I didn't actually do? You don't think there's any, unhealthy behavior going on there?
And apologizing and committing to further conversations and appropriate actions that address the incident and restore the harm.
Again, assuming guilt and having to accept an accusation as truth. This is the workplace that you want to create? Okay.
In responding to and preventing microaggressions as a manager, we encourage you to understand the importance of your role in disrupting microaggressions.
Okay.
Recognize that dismissive attitudes are harmful.
Unless it's something worthy of being dismissed. What if it's all frivolous? What if it has absolutely no bearing whatsoever on the workplace? What if there's no grounds for a complaint? What if the problem employee is not the speaker, but the listener?
Develop a plan for fostering an inclusive environment.
Okay. How do I do that?
Remember, training helps organizations and individuals recognize bias, but it isn't sufficient to resolve the impact on the organization. Accountability and incentives are proven to shape organizational behavior and culture around bias.
Well, yes, if you do the carrot and stick method and DEI is leading the way, yeah, you'll get results of a kind. Do they actually translate into a better work environment, into more profits? You might want to ask Silicon Valley's DEI apparatus these last couple of years. Budgets have been slashed. They're running away from it.
If you're wondering what organizational responsibility for DEIB goals look like, it may take many forms, such as creating and supporting employee resource groups.
Hey, ERGs! Oh boy! Do we have a veterans one at the very end of the list?
Embracing policy practices and procedures that explicitly focus on DEIB with the intention of disrupting bias.
Such as?
And disrupting microaggressions intentionally and deliberately.
Oh. How? I would love to see disrupting a microaggression in action, right? I'd love to see a live example of a microaggression being disrupted. I imagine what it might be like. Seriously, I think about somebody jumping in front of someone saying something before the words hit that other person's ears. It's like, boy, I sure like your hair. And then somebody goes like, no, and jumps sideways, right, in between the speaker's mouth and the recipient's ears. And the sound waves just kind of bounce off their face, and they sort of throw their head back in pain like, oh, and they sail past in between the two people and land on their side, off to the side. And both people look at him like, oh, and the speaker puts his hand over his mouth going like, oh, I suddenly realized what I said. And the person who is going to be hearing the microaggression is like, what just happened? And the person on the ground is like, oh, I have such nice hair. I'd love to see that animated, actually.
Understanding, acknowledging, and acting on microaggressions in the workplace may seem like a daunting task.
Daunting is one word for it. Ridiculous is another.
However, it's a task we should all feel empowered to take on here at UC Berkeley.
Oh, okay.
As tackling microaggressions is key to creating an inclusive culture we can all connect to.
Oh boy, yes. A whole bunch of word police drones running around looking for reasons to be offended and then holding people to account for what they've decided is offensive. And then taking that to supervisors and management. Boy, I can just imagine the efficiency of UC Berkeley's DEIB and HR departments. Boy, howdy. All right, that's the end of Module 1B. Now I think we move on to Module 2, which is a different subject, and I don't remember which one it is. So let's move on to Module 2. Any second now.
At UC Berkeley, we want you to discover not only a sense of community and belonging, but also cultivate and explore meaningful and diverse professional opportunities on campus.
Oh boy, professional opportunities on campus. Tell me how.
That's why at UC Berkeley, we have ample opportunities to engage with identity-based staff organizations that
Identity-based staff organizations. Identity-based staff organizations. Identity-based staff. It's not quite ERGs, but it sounds similar too. All right, so say that again.
Want you to discover not only a sense of community and belonging, but also cultivate and explore meaningful and diverse professional opportunities on campus.
Meaningful and diverse.
That's why at UC Berkeley, we have ample opportunities to engage with identity-based staff organizations that celebrate the rich diversity of our staff.
The rich diversity of our staff. You mean as individuals or on the basis of aesthetics?
While creating a welcoming campus environment that encourages sharing, mutual support, cross-cultural, and social learning.
Okay, and how is that different from a campus that never had a DEI program? Because I experienced that on the campus I went to back in the early 2000s. I met a whole bunch of different people that I never would have otherwise met. I learned a whole bunch of different things about different places in either the country or the state. I learned a whole bunch of different things. And I didn't have some kind of DEI rubric hovering over my head with microaggressions and unconscious bias and everything else, making me walk on eggshells wherever I went. I just sort of met people and talked to people and mingled. But okay, UC Berkeley's much, much better now.
We encourage you to seek out the staff organization that speaks to you.
Okay, well, give me a list of what these staff organizations are.
Your identity and your personal and professional development goals.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Nat Hunsan.
My name is Ursula Nadasti.
Mark Jane Prindle.
Karina Saravia Butler.
Fred Smith.
Lupe Gallegos Diaz. I am a member of the Cal Women's Network.
The Cal Women's Network. Okay, so I wouldn't obviously seek that one out because I'm not a woman. So I mean, unless I identify as a woman, I suppose I could just kind of show up, right? Thank you, Matt Barnes. Unless you're straight white and right of marks, at least that's my guess. I would guess so too. From what we've been given so far, I would guess so too. All right, so we have what, as far as I can tell, will be the equivalent of employee resource groups on UC Berkeley's campus. So Cal Women's Network. Who's Cal? If you want to buy a truck, go see Cal. If you want to save a buck, go see Cal. If you want to buy a truck, if you want to save a buck, if you want to buy a truck, go see Cal. Anyway.
I am a member of the Alianza staff organization.
Alianza staff organization. Okay. And what is required to join that one?
The Black Faculty and Staff Organization.
The Black Faculty and well, that's okay. Yeah, these are ERGs. Okay.
The Staff Alliance for Disability Access.
The Berkeley Staff Assembly.
And I'm
the Berkeley Staff Assembly. That sounds like the most generic of them so far.
representing the Asian Pacific American System-Wide Alliance at UC Berkeley.
Okay. So everybody is slotted into their requisite demographic tribe. Okay.
Joining APASTA has provided me the opportunity to meet so many people from within my community and across the campus.
Really? Because it sounds a little bit passively segregationist. But this is just me talking. What do I know?
I had a colleague who was a member and she had asked me to join. So when the opportunity came up, I was really excited to do that because one of the things that I was really looking for was to have the opportunity to have more connections to campus.
Well, specifically females on campus, right?
When I started my career at UC Berkeley, there was no organization for the community of the disabled on campus.
Okay, so you did start your career there. Okay.
Our mission is to supply a safe space where staff with disabilities and students and faculty can come in to discuss issues for the disabled community and how we can address it.
Okay, well, I'll give you that. I mean, you know, because disabled is such an umbrella term and can mean a whole bunch of different things. Okay. And I mean, none of it defines who you are, but it does define a situation you find yourself in, or, you know, just a factor of life, right? Like if you had, I've talked about this before, if you have an ERG for single parents, or you have an ERG for veterans, or an ERG for disabled employees or something to that effect, these are all situational subjects you find yourself in, or categories you find yourself in, right? Either as a reflection of life situation or personal merit and experience, that kind of thing. Those ones, I can't really argue with all that much. You know, it's always comes down to exactly, okay, well then what do these groups actually do? What do they accomplish? What's productive about them? But then you get down to the ones about like, oh, well, I'm a particular skin color, or I'm this gender, or I'm this, which says nothing about who you are and isn't a life circumstance to be in. Those are the ones that I go kind of like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Being a part of staff organizations while working remotely allows me to be more connected with my colleagues, even though I'm actually living across the country.
Okay, so what particular demographic does your staff organization cater to?
I am part of the leadership team of the Alianza staff organization.
Right.
And I really feel like I'm able to promote principles of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging because I'm not one-dimensional. I'm a Latina.
I'm not one-dimensional. I'm a Latina.
I'm a woman of color.
You have not left the first dimension yet.
And I'm also a lesbian.
You have still not left the first dimension. We still have not gone to the second dimension or the third dimension yet.
Now my colleagues know that there's these dimensions to who I am.
No, those aren't, no. None of those things say anything about who you are. I hate to tell you this. If I just said, Latina, woman of color, lesbian, if I just put that on a poster, just those words somewhere, no one would be looking at that and thinking of you, the individual. It says nothing about who you are. Nothing.
And it brings more truth to my work.
If you say so.
One of the things that we've been doing across the whole campus is becoming an anti-racist campus.
Great. Becoming an anti-racist campus by divvying up your staff mostly on the basis of skin color or ethnicity, and promoting that race needs to be a present factor in your interactions one to another. Great. Tell me more about your anti-racist campus.
So the idea was to create the DEI subcommittee to evaluate our mission and our vision.
We've had a significant drop in the Black population here at Cal. So one of our main focuses is working with campus leadership on the recruitment and the retention of Black faculty, staff, and students.
Okay, so you're having some kind of racialized filter in your hiring and admissions process. Well, that's interesting because affirmative action has been outlawed in California since 1996, I believe. So given that you haven't had that ability through affirmative action, at least in the student body, and then conceivably in the staffing since the mid-90s, I'd be curious to know how are you doing this? By what means are you attempting to affect this change in the demographic split on your campus? Thank you, Matt Barnes. Scribe, it's for the greater good. Yes, the greater good. I used to have that sound clip somewhere. I should find that again and have that on here as a stinger. Thank you, Matt Barnes. But yes, okay, so you don't have enough of the right-looking type of people on the campus. How are you solving that?
We are passionate about being resources for the Black community here at Cal to assist them with everything that they need to thrive on this campus, because that is essential here at UC Berkley.
Why? I mean, not that people don't need resources to thrive, but why specifically one skin color? Why?
There are so many different staff organizations here at UC Berkley.
Oh, I'm getting that picture, yeah.
And I encourage you to find the time to look for a community that speaks to you and join that staff organization.
Well, what if it speaks to me, but I demonstrably don't belong to the name? I mean, what if I went up to one of the staff organizations and I was standing in front of the members and I said, I really like your hair. Can I join?
Just working and being involved with others that share some of your same values is such a great lift.
Values? Oh, are these staff organizations based on philosophy? I was under the impression that they were all based on aesthetics. Oh, or am I to assume a set of values in someone on the basis of their race or ethnicity or disability status, I suppose? Okay.
All of these networks have really provided me with skills that I have been able to use in my profession.
Such as?
I highly encourage any new person or any person that has worked here for a long time to explore what staff organizations are out there.
These particular organizations provide a space for people to feel that they do belong here. And
except when you divvy people up on things that say nothing about who they are and make it very exclusive based on race. How do you guys, and I'm just talking to the Berkeley people in general, how do you hold these two ideas in your head at the same time? You want to create an inclusive environment, and then you create subculture category tribes within your own staff based on race primarily. Yeah, or gender, I suppose. I mean, I don't see a men's staff organization, right? I don't see a Germanic staff organization. So where's the inclusion again when you're dividing everybody up on the basis of irrelevancies?
that not only do they belong, but they can create and thrive both on a personal level and also on a professional level.
Sure.
Being part of the staff organizations really do make me feel like I'm still connected to campus life.
Why? How? Well, it's again, it seems very segregated in the dictionary definition of the term.
You have an opportunity to build bridges with other ethnic staff organizations across campus.
Why do you need to build bridges to other ethnic staff organizations? You know, if you didn't have moats created between you all on the basis of ethnicity or race, no bridges would be necessary. What if you had staff organizations based on specialty or interest or something that was a bit more, I don't know, ephemeral than melanin count for the most part, or genitals?
And within the greater UC Berkeley community.
Okay, well, that was the end of Module 2, Staff Organizations at UC Berkeley. All right, let's get ready for Module 3.
Is your department's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee an afterthought?
I've never been on a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, so I don't know. What if it is? Then what?
Or is it an essential component of your organization?
I don't know. You tell me. What should it be?
Individuals from diverse backgrounds.
So not white people.
Such as people of color and historically marginalized groups.
Yeah, so not white people.
Are often invited to join DEI committees in order to contribute their unique perspectives and insights to the collective.
Oh, God. Okay, the collective and then the look on his face, I'm having flashbacks to Star Trek. Good gravy, that sounds sinister.
While incorporating diverse viewpoints is crucial, we recognize that assembling the right DEI team and getting campus stakeholders is just one part of the equation.
Okay, what constitutes the right people for such a thing? Is it diverse people?
Whether this is your first time engaging with DEI committee work, or you are a DEI committee expert.
I'd say that I'm a DEI committee expert at this point. I'm just going to say it. After 7 years of osmosis, I'm just going to declare that I'm a DEI committee expert. I hereby certify myself as a DEI committee expert.
There is value in exploring this question.
Okay.
What is the role of the DEI committee?
To make everybody's lives miserable and to grift as much money as possible off into careers and job positions that are ultimately irrelevant and non-productive, but perpetuate themselves through social guilt and sort of witch hunting of people's ideas and beliefs. Oh, was that not the right answer?
And why is it important?
Well, it's not, in fact, but go on.
The role of the committee is to assess the climate within the organization.
And by climate, we mean looking at racial demographics and the statistics thereof in the makeup of the campus and or the staff. Right? That's what you mean by climate.
And to identify potential barriers to employee engagement, which
so you mean looking at disparities between racial and or gender demographics and saying that the disparity equals an inequity.
In turn, can have a significant influence on the student experience. Research indicates robust correlations between the morale of staff and faculty members and student learning outcomes.
Correlation, you say? There's another part of that equation that you need in order to actually address something. Are we going to talk about that other C word?
The DEI committee is not only tasked with pinpointing issues, but also with providing recommendations for enhancing existing policies, practices, and procedures.
Yes, look, there's a disparity between this demographic and that demographic. Obviously, there's an injustice taking place. We need to change policies to get this number as big or bigger than the other number. Even if that's completely an outcome of just natural people's decision making or personal choice or whatever, we need to fix it because it's obviously a problem. Now give me a paycheck for having found an issue that we need to address because I looked at some statistics and said there's a problem. Yay.
DEI committee work often involves reading the campus climate.
What does that mean? What does campus climate mean? How do you assess the campus climate? You use that phrase twice now. So what does a campus climate look like? How is that measured?
To assess the extent to which students, faculty, and staff, regardless of their race, gender, ethnicity, orientation, disability, or difference.
No. Those things are inherent to the assessment of the climate on the campus, right?
Feel welcomed, valued, and supported in their work, studies, and research.
All right, so walk me through the steps. I've created a DEI committee. How do I take the temperature of the campus climate?
We know that both top-down and bottom-up committee approaches exist, and we recognize their distinct and inherent value. In certain instances, DEI groups stem from and are firmly rooted in broader leadership agendas.
They could be, I suppose.
The top-down DEI approach entails strategies that are developed and disseminated from the organization's leadership.
You don't say. And then, golly, what is the bottom-up approach?
When the group or committee aligns with the mission and values guiding the leadership, the imperative of advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion becomes systematically evident and, as a result, becomes a central institutional priority.
Okay, so if I start evaluating the worth of people on the campus on the basis of their race, it becomes systemic racism. Oh, wait, no, that can't be right. We're supposed to be dismantling systemic racism through DEI, because DEI is the counter to systemic racism, sexism, etc. Right? Okay.
In other cases, DEI groups emerge from grassroots efforts. In these instances, DEI strategies are molded by the input of employees on the ground.
Or students who don't know, anything about the world, protesting, threatening, etc. See Evergreen State College back 2014, thereabouts. Or Mizzou, same time period, 2014, 2015. How did all that turn out? How well done was all of that?
And rise to the attention of senior leadership.
Yeah.
A DEI group or committee established through grassroots efforts also possesses the potential to advance positive change.
Or become a total and absolute witch-finding mission. But that's never happened before. By the way, if you really want to find out about the ins and outs of the Evergreen State College insanity, and as a template of what to watch out for when it comes to what has and is taking place on and in educational institutions, both on a student level and now more so on a staff level, I highly recommend the Evergreen State College sort of documentary series created by Benjamin Boyce over on his channel. If you don't know about Benjamin Boyce, check out Benjamin Boyce, Boyce, on YouTube and look up his, I believe he has a playlist or two covering Evergreen State College. It is absolute bedlam what happened at that place. But at the time, it was just the most probably extreme example of things that have been going on college campuses for years. And sometimes are more subdued now, but are no less destructive and insidious.
And to ensure that a higher education organization remains committed to its declared diversity, equity, and inclusion mission and values. The choice of the committee or group's name, as well as its introduction to the wider community, holds genuine significance.
Okay. So what's a good name for your DEI committee? Let's call it JEDI. Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. How's that?
This signaling should be intentional and appropriate.
Yeah.
Aligning with the authentic responsibilities, roles, and expectations of the committee members.
Okay, so maybe I call it the committee to destroy Whitey. Right? Would that work?
For instance, The term committee
Yes.
might not entirely encompass the essence of this group's work.
Oh, league. How about league?
Since the culture of committees can vary depending on the organization.
Yeah.
In contrast, a task force structure usually entails more concrete and well-defined objectives to be achieved within a specified time frame.
It also sounds more violent. Yeah, okay, the task force to destroy Whitey.
When introducing the committee and outlining its purpose, it's essential to take into account every aspect of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Every aspect of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Do you know how long a list that is? We'd be there forever doing absolutely nothing as a committee and demanding support from the organization that we're attaching ourselves. Oh, hey, actually, that's a great plan. That's a great grift. Yeah, okay, all right.
Diversity in the workplace means that a variety of experiences are represented across teams.
Oh, and how do you assess representation of experience? I mean, it's an interesting definition. I don't know that I've heard it done that way exactly before, but how would you assess who represents an experience?
Equity in the workplace means that all employees get what they need to succeed.
Okay, here's a desk, here's a computer, here's a pencil and some paper. Go. Oh, but what if they don't succeed? I mean, what if everybody gets everything that they need to succeed? Like at my job, my first real job out of college was doing collections. And so I was given a computer, a phone, and a printout of the phone numbers of the accounts that I had to call on to collect. Everybody was given the same thing. Now, did everybody complete their split at the same time during the course of the day? Did everybody collect the same every day as the other person? Did everybody have the same talent with doing skip tracing or anything else to find somebody that might be out of contact? No. We were all given what we needed, so some people did a lot better than others, depending on their, intuition or their ambition or their skill. So if someone's not achieving the same, even though everyone's given everything that they need to succeed, what do you do with the person that isn't keeping up? What do you give them to succeed more? I wonder.
Inclusion is reflected in a workplace environment that values and respects its employees.
Oh, is that what inclusion means? Oh, okay. Well, then why were you bringing up race and all that other stuff earlier? What does that have to do with anything?
The composition of the group is really important.
Oh, I assume it is. And that composition's based on, complementary skills and education that, better enforce the mission of the team, correct?
Those present influence the sense of belonging and community on campus.
Oh, okay.
Individuals who actively contribute to campus unity exemplify the University of California principles of community.
Oh, okay. So somebody who does like extracurricular activities or goes the extra mile and so, okay, fair enough.
They showcase empathy and respect for everyone.
Well, I suppose that would be good too. Yeah.
Promoting fairness and equity.
Fairness and equity seems a bit redundant, but okay, sure. Those all seem like reasonable and productive elements of someone's character.
Ideally, a DEI committee should consist of individuals who are highly motivated to learn and actively participate.
Okay, sure.
Possessing skills and expertise relevant to the committee's objectives.
Fair enough.
To ensure a purposeful inclusion of diverse perspectives in the conversation, it's essential to define minimum qualifications or expectations for participation.
Okay, well, you should be a student and or, I guess, staff member at the college. You should have, well, like you said, you should be somebody that's presumably more tuned into the campus than your average bear, someone who's doing extracurricular stuff or is taking part in other sort of activities on campus beyond just the regular studies and homework and such. And like you said, should have some sort of demonstrable character traits of leadership and passion for the subject matter, I suppose, right?
Once these are established, you can embark on a comprehensive brainstorming session that leverages your own networks and those of your colleagues.
I could, sure.
When considering cultural and racial diversity and representation.
Oh, so we're moving away from skills and experience and integrity and passion now, are we? Okay.
It's essential to guarantee that the group or committee reflects a diverse cross-section of the university community.
Oh, okay. So I need to have a racial test or filter as to who belongs on the committee. Oh, okay. So now we're not valuing individuals on who they are for, membership into this group, but what they are. All right. And how do I make sure I have the correct mix of racial and ethnic individuals on my DEI committee?
Encompassing various demographics and experiences.
How do you assess experience as related to demographic again?
Prioritize what makes the most sense. For instance, the insights and expertise of employees who serve historically underserved student communities are invaluable.
Because I have to assume that a person who falls within a particular demographic therefore belongs to a monolith and can speak for an entire demographic that I have to take pity on because I assume them to be quote unquote underserved. Okay.
Likewise, cultivating relationships with leaders of identity-based staff organizations can facilitate the promotion of leadership opportunities within the DEI committee across different communities.
Yes, if I go and focus on the pre-established segregationist staff committees and organizations that are all mostly based on race and or gender, yes, I guess then I would be sampling from sometimes I can't quite keep up the humor of this just because of how ridiculous, backwards, old-fashioned, and insidious this stuff is. My humor engine kind of reaches a sort of a terminus. I just can't I can't make a joke of this anymore. It's like, oh yeah, no, everything started out great. Like I'm talking about people's their interaction on campus, the activities they're in, the empathy that they possess, their willingness to go the extra mile. It's like, oh yeah, these are all reasonable things to want to look for in someone to be on a committee to get things done about stuff in general. Sure. Then let's consider the other part. Let's put the racial test in there. Let's put the ideological test in there based on race. No.
If you discover that the individuals you are considering for the committee do not adequately represent the university's diversity, it's essential to ask yourself, what could be contributing to this lack of diversity?
A lack of melanin. I mean, that must be it, right? Because if someone's not representing correctly, it must be a melanin deficiency, primarily, right? What can be contributing to this lack of diversity? And we're not looking at individual people as individual people with their own unique backgrounds, experiences, education, skills, and so on, regardless of their aesthetic. No. We have to be looking at the surface level, right? That's what tells us if we have a diverse DEIB committee.
Is this due to the homogeneity within the unit or department of the university you are part of?
Homogeneity based on what? Based on what? I mean, if I'm in the English department and the majority of people there possess English degrees rather than biochemistry degrees, well, I guess we need to get some biochemists into the English department to mix things up a bit, because they're chemists. Or what are you referring to?
Have you established connections with important staff and faculty who engage with marginalized or historically underrepresented communities?
Well, what if those staff are not members of the marginalized and underrepresented communities, because connecting with other people doesn't inherently require a mutual appearance. What do I do then? What if that adds to the homogeneity, the pistachios and yogurt?
Are you actively fostering, developing, and nurturing positive relationships throughout the organization?
Well, I mean, if I'm assessing people's value on the basis of their skin color, probably not.
Regardless of the situation.
Regardless of the situation. Okay.
What is important is for members of the group to be invested in and committed to the goals and outcomes of the committee.
No. What you told us is that it's important that they don't look a particular way and that they do look another particular way. That's the most important. See, everything else goes by the wayside. Okay? If you've got two people in front of you that are both fully qualified to be on this committee, but you have decided that one's going to add to the homogeneity of the group versus the other person simply on the basis of their aesthetic, their skin color, their genitals, or whatever else, you don't care about experience. You don't care about skill. You know what's important. What's important is the look. Does it look correct? Come on.
Adopting this approach will help avoid a scenario in which employees, especially employees of color,
especially employees of color, because again, this is the task force to destroy whitey,
are tokenized.
You've just walked us through a process of tokenizing people on the basis of what they look like to quote unquote represent entire demographics. Everything you've described is a process of tokenization. You gotta be kidding me. Come on, man.
Is for members of the group to be invested in and committed to the goals and outcomes of the committee.
I jumped backwards too far. I apologize.
Adopting this approach will help avoid a scenario in which employees, especially employees of color,
because white people couldn't possibly feel tokenized, I guess. Well, what if it's a white person who's a woman or a white person who's gay or something?
Are tokenized and asked to be the sole representatives and spokespersons for their community.
That's exactly what you said not 3 minutes ago in this presentation. You wanted to recruit people from communities who were underserved so they could represent. What? I just, sometimes it just...
What? You gotta be fucking kidding. Right?
I did... Okay. Again, this is wisdom coming to us from UC Berkley.
As they may not wish to take on that role.
But you brought them on specifically to fulfill that role. You just told us this a minute ago.
This is a potential pitfall.
No, it's inherent to the... This is your own process you're describing.
Particularly in an environment with limited representation.
What?
In traditional approaches, the burden of addressing diversity, equity, and inclusion often falls on those who have experienced discrimination.
If you say, at this point, is there any group, even I'm screwing up, is there any demographic who hasn't been discriminated against? DEI in and of itself discriminates in favor of and against everybody. It's inherently discriminatory. It assumes to know the quality or the value of someone on the basis of their race and either elevates them on the basis of it or denigrates them on the basis of it. Either way, there's not a demographic left untouched by DEI. So isn't it really the most equitable thing that anybody at this point can be responsible for DEI by that definition? Or am I just off in la la land? I don't know. Thank you, C. Thomas. Again, the doublethink is corrosive. It's amazing. It's amazing when you actually have a pause button and can stop and consider what has been said before and what's being said now, and just see the inherent contradiction of it. DEI cannot escape this contradiction. It never has, and it never will be able to. And thankfully, it's taken a long time, but it is now, only now, starting to die on the vine. DEI goes the DIE more and more as days go by, thankfully.
In reality, it should be the institution itself that takes responsibility for implementing fair practices and policies.
And who makes up the institution? All right, it's people. What if those people, quote unquote, haven't been the subject of discrimination? I mean, the institution is not some kind of lifeless monolith or something, right? It's made up of people. So again, another point that doesn't make any sense.
Consider a university that has primarily assigned the responsibility of addressing diversity, equity, and inclusion concerns to historically marginalized employees.
Okay, so like you just said, DEI should be handled by people who have experienced discrimination. So in your own description, that would be the appropriate demographic to aim for, correct?
Particularly those from underrepresented racial backgrounds.
Racial backgrounds?
These employees are already juggling their regular job responsibilities, but they are now also expected to take on the lead on DEI initiatives.
Well, then they can decline, right? You were talking about forming... Okay, so in order to form an effective DEI committee on a campus or in an organization, you have to first look for people who have the initiative and the skills and the involvement and so on to be plugged into the campus community, etc. And then you have to put up the racial filter for whether or not they are effectively representing the population on campus. But in order to do that, you're going to have to look for people from traditionally marginalized or underserved communities to join the DEI committee. But now you're putting the burden on such on such demographics to take on the responsibility of DEI initiatives on top of their regular job responsibilities. So should I then not seek to recruit people from marginalized or underserved communities to join the DEI initiative because I'd just be hurting them in some way? Where is this going?
As time goes on, this approach starts to take a toll on these employees.
So, what is the correct thing to do?
They may become overwhelmed and stressed due to the additional workload, which can ultimately lead to burnout.
Because someone not from a underserved or marginalized community wouldn't also potentially experience burnout from having additional responsibilities placed on them on top of their regular job duties or something?
Furthermore, they might feel frustrated as they perceive DEI work as an additional burden thrust upon them.
It is inherently, because it's outside of their regular job responsibilities. So what are you recommending be done then?
Consequently, this situation can result in a high turnover rate among historically marginalized employees.
It could turn into a high turnover rate for anybody who has to take on additional responsibilities on top of their regular full-time work. What does that have? What does any of that concern have to do with someone's skin color or ethnicity?
As they seek workplaces where DEI responsibilities are more evenly distributed.
Well, how can they be more evenly distributed if the demographics of the workplace are stilted one way or the other? And don't you want appropriate representation for historically marginalized and underserved groups? I am glad I did not attend UC Berkley.
Additionally, other staff members who do not belong to historically marginalized groups,
so white people, I'm assuming,
may begin to distance themselves from DEI efforts.
Well, you don't want them on DEI efforts because you're trying to avoid homogeneity, right? And homogeneity means... see, Thomas, thank you again. Started a microaggression, now just mask off. I feel aggressed. I feel decidedly aggressed now. Oh boy. Okay, we still got 8 minutes in this thing. Come on.
Believing it is not their responsibility. They might not fully engage in these initiatives, assuming that addressing these issues is solely someone else's duty.
Well, when you have elevated certain people on the basis of their skin color into situations and assessments of them as being wise to this, that other people are not, that their perspectives are more valuable based on their assumed hardships based on their skin color, why wouldn't someone who is white feel that way? You've just told us they don't matter. They are of lesser importance or value to the whole process.
The core competency model, encompassing achieving results, building relationships, and creating the future, emerges as a clear and accessible guideline.
What are you talking about? Core competency ABCs, achieving results, building relationships. Okay, how does that solve for the burnout rate of marginalized and underserved persons on a DEI team?
This model not only provides a structured understanding, but also outlines the standards and behaviors expected from every UC employee.
What does that have to do with anything you were just talking about?
By adhering to these competencies, employees contribute significantly to the fulfillment of the UC mission.
What?
Fostering an environment of diversity, equity, and inclusion that aligns seamlessly with the university's overarching goals and values.
Nothing you have said in any way, shape, or form relates to or resolves the problems you highlighted just a minute ago. What? Okay, we're almost done. Almost. Okay, that was Module 3. Module 4. Lay it on me.
So how do we put DEI committee work into transformative action?
I don't know, but I am dying to find out. But I'm also dying to take a brief intermission because Scribe has to find some kind of relief. I'll put it politely as it's a family show. So I'll be right back after not any messages. And we're back. All right. So now we're going to learn how a DEI committee is going to affect change or something. Can't wait.
How do we sustain the work?
I don't know.
As we know, the context for developing a DEI committee or any formal body focused on DEI efforts sets an important foundation for the work ahead.
I'll have to take your word for it. I've never had to form a DEI committee before.
It's not uncommon for a group to form in response to an incident or series of incidents that have
or a series of purported incidents, as happened in some colleges, where some mysterious graffiti showed up and suddenly it was a problem, and certainly not perpetrated by somebody trying to instigate such a thing and then make themselves the hero of the situation. Anyway, sorry. No.
Have had a detrimental effect on an organization's climate and culture. When groups are formed under this context, there may be a heightened sense of urgency and a strong focus on addressing particular issues.
Yeah, almost like it's hyperbolic and unhinged. Yeah, I can imagine such a thing.
Frequently, DEI professionals and committee members are brought in to extinguish the immediate fires without addressing the root causes.
Oh, okay. What are the root causes? Or how shall I uncover the root causes? You want to give us an active example? I'd love to know of like if they would give us something that's happened at UC Berkeley they could use as a bellwether for how to address these things, like an actual event that took place at UC Berkeley.
Productive DEI work should tackle the structural inequities at their core, not just the visible symptoms.
Okay, and how do you go about doing that?
Achieving this necessitates a roadmap with clear objectives to ensure that the root causes are being confronted, not just the surface level harm or urgency.
Yeah, you've said the same thing twice now. Okay, so how do you go about finding the root causes?
If an organization does not have a roadmap for meeting the intended outcomes or goals, this can break trust even further and demoralize employees who are optimistic about the possibility of change through their organization.
All right, so how do you address and or mitigate that risk?
Establishing a solid narrative that explains the purpose behind our efforts helps stakeholders translate that narrative into practical actions and a clear path forward in their respective roles and plans.
Great. Could you give us, I don't know, UC Berkeley's DEI narrative mission statement or whatever, as an example? You know, something that we can build off of or use as a compare contrast.
Now, what steps should we take to establish a framework for the DEI committee?
I don't know. You tell me.
In the previous model, we touched briefly on who should be part of the DEI committee.
Yes, based on race, ethnicity, and so on, with the consideration of skills, abilities, and passion is at best secondary, probably tertiary, but yeah.
And what qualifies committee members. Now we want to emphasize the importance of recruiting DEI committee volunteers.
Recruiting volunteers, okay.
When seeking volunteers, it's essential to choose a diverse group of employees and managers positioned across all organizational levels.
And what defines diversity in this context, might I ask?
Including entry, mid-level, and upper management tiers.
Oh, so people based on their experience demonstrable within the organization itself? Oh, okay.
Extend invitations to individuals from various backgrounds and underrepresented groups to encourage participation.
So not white people, then, is what you mean?
This could involve inviting students to join the committee, or
I would assume so.
Including staff members who are often marginalized, such as those in facilities, public safety, and service roles.
Wait. Facilities, public safety, and service roles are marginalized staff? Why? Now, full transparency here. If you didn't know, I don't either run a college nor work at a college. Why would facilities, public safety, and service staff be inherently marginalized? Have I missed something? Anybody got anything for me? Also, chat isn't moving. So did the stream die? When I see chat not moving for a while, I assume the stream died. Oh, wait. Well, Apex algorithm guy showed up, so everything must be okay now.
Avoid the practice of tokenizing groups by having only one representative from the most impacted group.
Yeah, avoid tokenization by having at least two, like Noah's Ark.
When individuals from marginalized backgrounds are offered a seat at the table solely as tokens,
which is what you encourage to have happen in the previous module, by the way,
it can lead to demoralization and frustration.
So the information and advice from the previous module is inherently destructive, you say?
Ensure that you have multiple members from different areas to prevent anyone from feeling isolated.
Yes, they came by twos.
When evaluating the diversity of the committee.
So wait. Don't tokenize it. Don't let them think you're tokenizing them by having one. So if you have one, you got to have at least one other. And the only way you can tell you need to have one other is based on what element of the first person's makeup, might you say, to hide the fact that... Are we listening to this? Hi.
You can apply Pamela Hayes' addressing framework to ensure that committee members' perspectives are influenced by a diverse blend of cultural and social factors.
To make sure their perspectives are influenced? What?
Such as A, age.
Addressing? Oh no.
D, disabilities that are developmental.
What?
D, disabilities that are acquired.
That's A.
R, religion.
Religion?
E, ethnicity. S, socioeconomic status. S, sexual orientation.
Okay, you realize that just about everything you're listing now violates Title VI. Let's just stop for a second. Let's remind ourselves, what is Title VI in the Civil Rights Act of 1964? In short, it says if you are an organization or an institution that accepts federal funds, you are disallowed from discriminating anybody in activities or programs or anything else on the basis of race, gender, ethnicity, religion. So you want to set up your DEI thing by explicitly, it's not even an implicit sort of, we're talking about backgrounds and underserved community. No. So you're advising explicitly to assess someone's inclusion on a DEI committee using age, disability, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation. Okay, keep going.
I, indigenous heritage. N, national origin.
This is all illegal. It's not even a matter of like, the gray area of affirmative action. No, now you step directly into, as far as I can tell, and somebody can feel free to correct me, but if our speaker is suggesting that a college, or at least UC Berkeley's campus, assess inclusion on a DEI committee using these elements, as far as I can tell, that runs straight into Title VI and civil rights violations. But okay.
And G, gender. Including individuals from diverse backgrounds and experiences, and considering the factors outlined in the addressing framework,
are inherently, or at least on the face of it, legally questionable,
will prepare the committee to tackle various DEI challenges that the organization encounters. DEI committee participation should remain voluntary.
You would hope so, yes.
And never mandatory. It's usually the case that those individuals who volunteer to be a part of the committee
are either dyed-in-the-wool true believers or looking to be power mongers and hold other people accountable and, perpetual chips on shoulders.
Are more invested in the outcome of the committee than those who may be pressured or required to join the committee. To ensure that the committee is sustainable, it's necessary to secure individual and organizational buy-in. On an individual level, a strategy to gain organizational support is to recognize committee participation as a valuable contribution to workplace achievements
Right. We have to remind ourselves constantly that DEI is important. DEI is important. DEI is part of the air that we breathe. DEI is part of our environment and infrastructure. DEI, DEI, DEI.
During employee evaluations and performance reviews.
Right. And if you're not on board with the DEI program, then that reflects badly on your performance review, I assume?
It's important to incentivize the participation and behavior that we value.
Okay. And how would you suggest we incentivize behavior that would tend to institute discrimination, racial, gender, etc., and even religious discrimination, as you've added that into the deal now, as you want to assess people on the basis of how shall you reward such behavior?
At the organizational level, it is equally vital to obtain commitment and support for the goals of the DEI Committee. Before you can obtain organizational level support, it is essential to clearly articulate a mission statement for the committee.
I agree. What is the mission statement for the UC Berkley DEI Committee?
This statement should establish what the purpose of the DEI Committee is.
To make everybody's lives terrible and increase our ESG rating for further investment from BlackRock and Vanguard. Oh, sorry. What was I saying?
And how it intends to accomplish it. A DEI mission statement serves as a foundation for fostering trust among your organization, the community, and its leadership.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I feel nothing but trust in an organization that promotes DEI. That is the first emotion I experience when I encounter a organization that so robustly promotes DEI.
While also aiding in the recruitment of a diverse range of participants.
Oh, and again, how do you define diverse when it comes to assessing individuals?
The DEI mission statement will serve as a compass for both the immediate and future objectives of the organization.
Yes, I know what a mission statement is. It's not inherent to a DEI program. It can be inherent to just about any organization. Thanks, I appreciate it.
To set these objectives, the committee may embark on the process of identifying areas of concern.
Informed by, let me guess, the racial demographics of the workforce or campus? I'm just guessing.
DEI committee goals should adhere to the SMARTY criteria.
What?
Which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, inclusive, equitable.
Quotas. So, quotas.
When it comes to creating internal processes that will support the sustainability of the committee, the committee should implement procedures for the inclusion or replacement of committee members.
Sure, if somebody has to bow out or someone gets sick or something, and okay.
You might also contemplate introducing an application system for employees interested in becoming part of the committee.
Oh, yeah, I would encourage more paperwork and more hard copy evidence of exactly how the DEI committee of any particular organization operates and how they decide who gets to join and why.
Utilizing an application process can potentially enhance commitment to the committee's DEI objectives.
Well, and since it's voluntary, then you're still,
It's important to establish regular meeting schedules and preferred methods of communication.
Yes.
It's also important to ensure that members of the committee have dedicated time within their work schedules to complete committee tasks and objectives.
Well, if they're volunteering for it and they're told ahead of time what's to be expected of them, then yes, that would fall upon their shoulders and responsibility to keep to.
The committee should also develop a shared vocabulary concerning DEI matters.
Oh, a shared vocabulary. Oh, so actual dictionary definitions, or are we going to go with like ideological definitions of terms?
It's crucial for all committee members to possess a shared understanding of the terminology related to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
You just said that a second ago, but in different words.
To guide their efforts effectively. It's also beneficial to establish clear boundaries for respectful conversations.
Oh, okay. What's a boundary for a respectful conversation? Obviously, I can't say I like your hair. We've already established that one.
Diverse viewpoints can lead to valuable discussions and dialogues.
define can a diverse viewpoint only come from a diverse person? Because we're supposed to be speaking in the same language, right? We have to like understand our terms. So when you refer to a diverse participant, how does that relate to a diverse perspective? And I'm honestly not being facetious. I would love to know how you square that circle in terminology terms.
Encouraging constructive disagreement and discussion while also recognizing when boundaries have been breached will enable committee members to minimize harm and maintain productive and positive relationships with their colleagues.
Nobody's going to be harmed unless you're saying muad'Dib with the weirding way. Nobody's going to be harmed by words unless they choose to inflict it upon themselves, of course.
Furthermore, it's important to designate someone on the committee who is prepared to mediate conflicts when they arise. Relatedly, when engaging in brainstorming and strategic planning, it's essential to incorporate diversity training and high-quality professional learning programs to enhance the racial and cultural fluency of committee members.
What? So wait, the DEI committee has to go through DEI training first or second? Racial competency. All right. What should I correctly comprehend of someone based purely on their race? I'm at a loss to think of that term in any other way. And if you tell me how I'm supposed to assess someone, or I'm just repeating myself now, aren't I? You all can finish that statement, that thought.
Including unconscious bias training.
Oh, you mean like racial competency?
Can assist committee members in recognizing and addressing their biases and prejudices.
Oh, I guess they could.
A successful DEI committee will send ripples through the campus workplace culture.
Oh, I have absolutely no doubt of that.
Celebrate yourself.
You're not talking about self. You're talking about aesthetics.
Celebrate diversity.
These are two completely different things.
And your role in creating an equitable and inclusive workplace.
Well, there you go, guys. That is the end-all, be-all for us from UC Berkley and our education into a diverse, equitable, inclusive, and belonging environment or something, you know. And I know I feel more educated now than I did when I began.
Of course.
So I hope you do too. I'll take a minute here because we are edging on sort of like the limit of what I usually do streams. I usually try to keep myself to at most 2 hours on a stream, both for my voice and my sort of, sense of sort of claustrophobia. If I sit still too long, I start getting really antsy and everything. But I will take a moment here, and if you guys have anything you'd like to add. Oh, P-Dog Knight was here, or is here. P-Dog Knight. I seem to recall having something about P-Dog Knight over here.
Wowie, wow.
There's a P-Dog Knight. If you guys don't know about P-Dog Knight, well, he's the lawyer dog. You can check him out on YouTube at P-Dog Knight, where he has his show every morning. I think most mornings, the Morning Night Live, starting around about 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern. And he covers the news of the day and his thoughts in thereon. And you should check that out. Let's see. What else we got? Faithless. Someone has to brainwash the brainwashers into brainwashers. Yeah, it's one big pyramid scheme. It's ideological Amway is what it is. And boy, oh boy. Yeah, so anyway, but this is professionally prepared by UC Berkley as advice. This wasn't satire. This wasn't meant as a joke. This is actually being foisted upon the staff and culture of UC Berkley at its core, but also the rest of the world as a result, and in modules. So we've had module 1A, 1B, 2, 3, and 4. I think I'm going to keep my eyes out to see if there's any others as time goes on. Let's see. Anything else? Let's see. Johnny Bonsacco, all this toxic bullshit is paralyzed to describe. We don't know what to do, say, or think anymore. Well, that's the point. That's the point. If you're fearful of even interacting with anybody, if you're fearful of saying something on the possibility that you might get recriminated for it or otherwise, that's where they want you. They want you suppressed and oppressed of your own volition. Remember, these are mind-forged manacles you place upon yourself under the fear of reprisal from those who know better. That's what it is. That is the power of it. And especially when you're in the workplace, it's like you're beholden to it just as a matter of course, right? I mean, if I don't follow the rules by the person writing my paycheck, I put my entire livelihood at risk. So, or if you're at a college, right? If you don't adhere to the rules, you could find yourself expelled or penalized, or if you're on staff, obviously fired or demoted or something. They hold the reins over you for your behavior, and they force you to conform with the ideology. Even if you don't believe it yourself, you have to play the part. And if you're playing the part, consequently, you're contributing to the problem being forced upon you. It is so evil and insidious, but this is where we're at and have been for several years now. Silent B, oh, hang on. These colleges are importing a student body that's not traditionally American. They might be directing this training at them like the No Square video. I'm not sure what did you mean by that? I'm not quite sure I got that one. Hence the low-level content. This is like 2014 level. Well, I mean, this is, if you had played this video stuff back in 2014, it would have fit just as well and probably would have been much more polished than what was being said at the time. But the language, the message is exactly the same. Nothing's changed. And UC Berkeley is doubling down on DEI, even in the face of such demonstrable opposition as we've seen since the affirmative action decision of last year. And of course, UC Berkeley doesn't care about affirmative action because legally they haven't been able to use affirmative action since 1996 when California outlawed affirmative action. But obviously, that hasn't stopped them from pushing DEI and apparently advice and structures that are, again, I might need my lawyer dog to check this one out, but as far as I can tell, told us with no uncertain terms that they are encouraging the violation of Title VI on college campuses by assessing members of school organizations on the basis of age and race and gender and religion. I don't know. Seems a bit off to me. But then what do I know? I am white, so, that doesn't count for anything, obviously. But either way, everybody, I'm running out of gas and my voice is starting to take a turn. So another note for tomorrow, Thursday, TED Excellence will be happening. However, right now I am planning on starting it at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, because the State of the Union address is tomorrow at the usual TEDx time slot. And I would actually like to watch, or depending on what my ranting monkey might be doing, participate in a watch stream of the State of the Union. So tomorrow, Thursday, TED Excellence, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. I haven't picked out the TEDx yet. It'll probably either be tonight or maybe tomorrow. I'm going to do a family function this evening that might take out my time to prepare it ahead of time. Either way, that's the programming note. Elsewise, if you'd like to join the Discord server, I have a link to the Discord server I'll be putting into the chat right now. You have to click on that. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to give the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you actually watched the stream and have earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And the Discord server secret word for today is module. Just say hello, module, and I'll know you watched the show. Outside of that, again, if you take a look at the top of the chat box for the GoFundMes for our friends Moonshock, Natalie, Angela Arriaga, James Colley, and Rhonda, please donate to those if you can. And if you can't, that's fine. Please share those out on social media. Otherwise, I'd appreciate it. Any other housekeeping stuff to deal with? Leave a like on the way out if you would. I'd appreciate that too. Share and share alike if you like this kind of content, or you like the content of any content creator out there that you appreciate. Be sure to share their stuff on social media. And if you're able to, tag them in such a sharing so they know it, because I tell you what, they appreciate it. And for me, when I see that happen, I do my best to thank you directly, because I do appreciate you going to the effort on my behalf. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this ambush stream. I know it's been a little lengthy, but hopefully you found something value out of it and share it with others. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the GoFundMe's at the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. It is very much appreciated. Hope you all have a good rest of your Wednesday. Hope to see you tomorrow, Thursday, for the special edition of TED Excellence at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.